Kubo versus Valencia. I mean, you can lead the discussion on this one. I'm happy for you to do that. You watch this live. I watched this today. And I mean, you just look at the numbers. A 5-5-5 game, which is a big deal in basketball, but it's like when a player has five of a bunch of everything in five different categories, which is like you did a little bit of everything. It's an extremely rare stat. You don't really have that in football, obviously, but Kubo had five shots, five key passes, five completed dribbles, and he was fouled 7 times. So I'm going to throw that in there too. But I'm saying all this because Valencia had a tough time to stop Kubo, and quite frankly, Mallorca in general, who had 22 shots and somehow lost 1-0. And a bunch of shots in the box, like a million of them, just scattered throughout, and they were unable to come away with anything from this game. But this is the Kubo show, so where do you want to start with this?
Man, well, I'm glad you kind of started us off with the final stats in this game because that really does go to show you how just influential he was in this match. It was if he like people after the game asked me because I was tweeting all about it, and people after the game were in my mentions asking, "Do you think Kubo could play for Real Madrid next season, or do you think Kubo actually has a future at Real Madrid?" And it's I'll answer it like this. He's certainly got the talent. Like there's no doubt that the talent is there. He's probably one of the most talented players um at his age. But that being said, I mean there's been plenty of talented players that just never make it at the highest level. And we've talked ad nauseum about his Achilles heel, which is his inability to defend, really to track, to defend, 1v1 defending, you name it. And so at Real Madrid, he's not going to be a luxury player, and so he'll need to improve in that department. But all that being said, if he can consistently perform like he performed against Valencia, without a doubt, there is a place for him at Real Madrid. But this is one game. He's got to start doing this consistently. But if he can produce five key passes, five completed dribbles, five shots, fouled 7 times, all the things you named, he won 14 of his 16 ground duels. Like if he does that type of stuff, then yeah, there's room for a player like that. And so even with an Mbappe and Vinicius front line, like he can still find significant minutes and an important role. And so in this game, I mean, Valencia just simply could not contain him. Like every single time he got the ball, he either did something or they just hacked him down. And we mentioned how many times he was fouled. Alderete literally should have been sent off within 20 minutes just for two incredibly tough tackles on Kubo. Only one of them got a yellow card. Brian Hill hacked him down at one point. Like everybody was just taking their chance with him. But it's just it was so nice to see him have the freedom to create off the dribble, have longer carries, like just be himself and have everything come off. Like in the final third, we always talked about in his first stint at Villarreal how he was constantly critiqued because of his final product in that final pass. And his final pass could not have been more perfect in this match. And there was just one particular moment where he was at the top of the box. He beats like two or three players. He's inside the box and he plays a just a dagger pass across the box to Juanmi Costa, the left back. So basically, he switched it from his right position all the way over to the left inside the box, and Juanmi Costa was free 1v1 and just hit his shot right at the goalie. But that should have been a goal. And there were multiple moments like that, and I just felt like he played lights out. He really played lights out. It was his best game of the season, best I've ever seen him play. I think I'm excited to see him play again. I hope he can build on this. This is like one of those performances that you either take the momentum and you just ride it all the way into the end of the season and you really grow from it, or it's a one-off and the inconsistency comes back. But I hope this is really the performance that catapults his season.
The pass to Jaime Costa reminded me of some of Odegaard's passes at Real
Yeah.
Sociedad, where like the There was one where he actually got an assist. I think it must have been against Atletico, right? Although I could be wrong, but he had a few that season where it's the cut in and then the diagonal pass that is so laserly, like that's not a word. It's so precise, like a laser is what I'm trying to say. Like, because you have to squeeze it through so many different players in such a tight angle that to pull it off, you need to really just have it absolutely perfect. There's not really a margin for error for that pass. It's extremely difficult to execute. And I mean, he was going for those daring passes all night. Like, just look at his passing accuracy; it was the worst on the field. But it's because he was extremely daring in this game, trying a bunch of things that were vertical and trying to progress the ball as quickly as possible. He was going on the left side as well, not just on the right side. But that particular pass to Jaime Costa was unbelievable because when he cut in, I don't think anybody expected the pass. Maybe some of Mallorca players did. Maybe Jaime Costa did, obviously, because he's the one who made that run and he maybe believed in Kubo to pull it off. But for sure, me watching it on the screen, I didn't see it coming at all. I saw maybe he was going to do an easier pass or he was just going to shoot. My initial reaction was he was going to shoot. So that pass blew my mind, to be quite honest with you, because it was one of those games where in the first half you can to me, it was a feel-good performance. So I was like, okay, this is good. Last week we spent time talking about his defensive issues, like you said, and the fact that he got yanked at halftime against Betis. And that first half, by halftime, and again, I didn't watch it live, so my halftime would be later this afternoon, but when I was watching, I was like, by halftime, I was like, you can I understood why there was hype, because I was a little bit worried that it was a bit overhyped for me, what I saw on Twitter, because by halftime of the game, in real time, at halftime on Twitter, you guys were all going crazy, and I was like, oh man, what a game to miss. And I was a little bit worried it was overhyped for me, but when I watched the first half, I was like, okay, I can see this is a really good performance. But it wasn't like that mind-blowing. But I feel like when that pass arrived, for some reason in my head, it was the icing on the cake for me. I was like, okay, this is just like the polish. This is just the cherry on top of the performance, because all Mallorca was missing really were a goal. But I think the problem is, though they created a lot, Valencia were really deep. They surrendered possession. And if you look at the quality of the chances from Mallorca, they weren't that great. They had a lot of volume, but not really any clear-cut chances. They had enough to score for sure. But overall, this is a really good Kubo performance. Do you think a team like Valencia suits him, though? If this is if they're playing a team that has more of the ball and is more dominant, it's a little bit harder for him to get involved like this, right?
Yeah. I mean, because that would entail offensive responsibility, and that's where he struggles. But when it's a deeper block and a team where Mallorca is actually going to be on the ball and dominate possession like they did, then his best qualities come out. And I think he you watch this game, that pass, there was another pass, he should have had 2 assists, and then he nearly scored. He nearly scored at the end of the first half. He cut in Aaron Robin and curled one with his left foot, and it just went wide. But he almost had 2 assists and a goal in this game, and that's how good his performance was. And literally one of my notes is just he's everywhere. You talked about how he was not just sticking to the right flank. He roamed all about, and he literally was everywhere.
Yeah. Anything else from the Kubo? I feel like this was going to be the highlight of. Not the highlight, but maybe the one we spend the most time on. So I'm just making sure that, is there anything else you want to discuss before we move on?
No, I think I hope we captured, because it really was a great game. So I hope we captured it.
Oh, I wanted to go back to something. When you were talking about, is he good enough for Real Madrid? I also think he is. I think if these names that we're all linked with, we know who they are, we've discussed it to death. If we get those players, he's not good enough to start. But he will. The problem is he's going to be competing with several players in the right wing, and one of the things I would kind of worry about is that if he's your guy off the bench on the right wing, let's say for example, and the alternative is Asensio, and obviously Rodrigo is still around. we haven't even mentioned Brahim yet, but Brahim has another year on loan, right? I almost forget that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so it's very Mbappe doesn't really defend. Asensio doesn't defend. Kubo doesn't defend. Is it? I don't. I'm just asking the question. Is it dangerous to go in with a bunch of right wingers who are kind of the same in the sense that they're very offensive minded? Is that dangerous? Is that okay? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think Kubo would get minutes in certain contexts, and I
Mm-hmm.
think most of his minutes would probably come off the bench where we're chasing a game or we need to change a game, and I think he'd actually be a great spark from that perspective. But yeah, I mean, I think the reason why Lucas Vasquez has had such a long career at Real Madrid is because he is the opposite of all those guys. He is the guy you can rely on to put in the defensive shift. And if you need that stability on the right wing, he's basically how Manchester United used to use Park Ji-sung. Like that's who Lucas Vasquez was for us and
Yeah.
is for us. At least when he was playing at the right wing. And so you need that type of player. So I guess the question comes is like, does Asensio really stay? If he renews and stays, then yeah, and Rodrigo stays, then yeah, you do face a little bit of a dilemma. But I think the one thing that works in Kubo's favor against all these guys, against Brahim, Asensio, Rodrigo, even Mbappe, I'm not saying he's going to take minutes from Mbappe, but the one thing that Kubo is over all these guys is he's a natural right winger. He would be the only natural right winger in the team. None of those guys, their natural position is the right wing.
Yes. Um, so on that note, the management Twitter account put out a poll uh, on 4 right wing options for next season if you had to choose just one. And the results were much more even than I anticipated. So the options were Kubo. If you had to choose one of these players off the bench, to be clear, Kubo, Rodrigo, Asensio. Who did I have for the fourth one? Was it Brahim? I think it was
Yeah,
Brahim.
I
So
think so.
those 4. Let's assume we can narrow it down to 3. Let's say Brahim just doesn't come back on loan yet because we still have another year. We can buy time with him. If you had to only choose one for next season, who would you choose?
Uh, Man, it's so hard to pick. Um, I haven't been convinced enough by Brahim this season, even though his start was so great, and I really like Brahim, but I think he needs another year at AC Milan before any decisions made. So I wouldn't say Brahim. I'm torn. Asensio, it's still I've been encouraged by his recent form and the change in his attitude and just the more responsibility he's taken within the team, but I'm still not convinced there. And I'm still the PSG performance really was discouraging for me. And so if he does start again against PSG, he needs to be a pivotal player to really change my mind on him. And I think the body of work, like I don't like to be a person that just looks at one game, but I just don't think the body of work has been there for Sensio, even with his improved form and just overall stats. And then Rodrigo, I really like. I think he gives us natural width on the right wing. I think he has this ability, and when he's confident, he has a really nice swag and just ability about him to take players on 1v1 and create opportunities in space out of nothing. And I think he combines well with his teammates. And he does. And Rodrigo probably out of all those guys probably has the best. Brahim as well, but probably has the best defensive work rate. Um, so it kind of comes down to Rodrigo and Kubo for me. And I just, if I was just basing it on this last game, I would maybe go for Kubo, but I need to see it more consistently from Kubo. I think Kubo's maybe more talented than all of those guys, but at the end of the day, it, that's not enough. You've got to put the full package together, and especially the defensive work rate. And so, I guess I'm going with Rodrigo. Where's your head at?
I think Rodrigo's the safest choice to me in the sense that he has the highest floor out of all these players, in my opinion. Like he is the guy who, like, you know that you're going to get a solid winger for years to come. But I don't know if
Yeah,
his ceiling is as high as a Kubo. Kubo won the
yeah,
poll, by
I
the
agree.
way, marginally, and I that's probably partly because of the recency bias. Because I think it was actually posted after that Kubo performance, so everyone had
Yeah,
that fresh in their minds. It was probably unfair. Like if he posted that before the game, it would have been probably different. That's just how it works. But I think what the ideal scenario is with Bale gone. Um, I think if you can get rid of Hazard somehow,
yeah,
then you can have Rodrigo as the backup left winger. And I don't know if Haaland's going to arrive or not. But just for argument's sake, let's say Haaland doesn't arrive. You have Benzema, Mbappe, Vinicius up front. Rodrigo is your backup left winger. And then you get Kubo on the right. Uh, and Asensio. The thing is, I don't think Asensio's going anywhere. I don't. I think he's earned his way into a contract here. Like I think
yeah,
he'll extend. If I had to guess, my guess is Real Madrid will actually extend him, so he'll be around. But
yeah,
the other thing is Mbappe would also be kind of the pseudo backup left winger, or like you know what I mean. He's not a backup left winger. He's probably the best left winger we have if he comes on the team. But just for argument's sake, if Vinicius is injured or Mbappe is injured, the other one will probably shift to the left. And then that spot will open up on the right again. So it's kind of a very interesting one for next season to see how they fill out the depth chart. My guess is Asensio will be there though. What's up, Madridistas? I hope you enjoyed that clip. This is Kiyan Subani just kind of signing you off here. What you just listened to was a segment from this week's Loan Tracker podcast that went up Tuesday night. And every Tuesday over on patreon.com/managing Madrid, Matt Wilsey joins me to give you a report on Real Madrid's loanies. So we actually go and watch every single Real Madrid loanee play every game. And we do it so that you don't have to, and we do it so that we can give you a report every Tuesday. We provide you with a lot of nuanced discussions like the one you just heard, and even dive into some other stuff sometimes. Like last night, we had a lengthy discussion on the same podcast about the reported mega offer for Kylian Mbappe and the proper way to discuss that report. So if you like this stuff, you like this work, $3 a month gets you access to everything, a bunch of bonus shows, the Loan Tracker. You get a mailbag every week where you get to ask questions. You get big Champions League and Classico post-game shows live on Zoom where you can join us live on the podcast. So that's over on patreon.com/managing Madrid. We'll welcome you inside the Real Madrid family. Look forward to seeing you there. And thank you so much for taking the time to listen.